Alright, welcome to another quick devlog from my side. I have changed quite many things today. I'm going to start off with the basic robot, the one that used to be pretty boring but now has a pretty unique feature that I'm going to show you. First of all, I want to explain a little bit what I've done here. You can now see that he's got like this little bar, which actually is not a health bar. I don't know why it's called like that. It's actually a battery canvas. Battery canvas. All right. So, well, let's dive into the project so I can explain everything. Let's start it real quick. So right here you can see that the robot is now following a certain path. Whereas before this change, it just used to stand still and do nothing. As long as the player wasn't in line of sight. Now it's just, now I made it so you can predefine a certain path and it will walk that path. It is going to walk along this path until its battery. You can see that in this progress bar. I just did a backflip. And this is the bar. And once this reaches 0, you can see the robot is going to drift off the path. And it is going to navigate to this green box. You can imagine this like, maybe think of like a vacuum cleaner robot. That robot, every time the battery is low, it's going to automatically go into the charging station to recharge, which is essentially what this guy is doing. Also, I have changed a little bit how the gun sound work. It's now way more directional audio than it was before. Before this change, it just used to be mono, so every gunshot in the game would appear as the same distance from the player, which obviously is not great because if you have 30 enemies shooting at you, it's just going to be distorted, loud, and nobody really knows where the enemies are coming from. When I turn around, I'm going to explain what is happening right here later. If I turn around, you can hear that the gunshot is coming from different directions. Same thing applies to my gun. You can hear it's coming a little bit more from the right side. Also, before this big change of today, the robot would just shoot and empty its entire magazine and then just do nothing. It would just stand around stupidly and do nothing. Now though, you can, let me show you that. You have certain settings here. I expanded that by a lot. You can change the reload time. Every time the robot detects that the magazine has been emptied, meaning there are no bullets left to shoot, it will start the timer, and once the timer reaches 0, it will reload and shoot again. So you can kind of reset. Also, you kind of saw the battery gimmick before. If the robot is in the patrol state, meaning that it's following this path, it will drain energy every time it's moving. If it stops at one of these corners, the energy drain is going to be paused for a second, and then it will be continued once it follows the next path. But here, once it is in the attack state, once it's shooting at me, it loses battery, or the battery gets drained with every shot. You can see that if I, and now it's reloading, look at the bar. it's raining. Now it stops. You heard the click because it reloaded. Now timer is starting. Timer is over. Shooting. Okay, let's make him run a little bit so he loses more battery. Yeah, you can see battery slowly dying. And now he's going to stop and return to the recharging station. Stop there and charge up. We don't really need him anymore because that's pretty much it for the robot. That's pretty much it. There are 2 new states that just are really simple. I just made it so that the bot is a little bit more dynamic, not just walking around, not just doing nothing, but actually contributing like cool stuff to the game. Now I'm going to demonstrate something I have changed with shootables in general in my prototype. Before, you might have noticed that you were able to shoot through objects. At least it looked like you could. That's because before this change, you have to imagine the shooting as if it's like an invisible laser that shoots out at light speed, immediate. Like it shoots, in the same frame it checks if it hits something, and if yes, then it applies damage to that object. The problem is that before this change, the projectile, the little laser, you might remember, was separate from the original shooting logic, making it so that the object would disappear in the world before the projectile could even reach it. And before this change, I made it so that the projectile auto-deletes itself once it hits something. Problem is, if there's nothing to hit, it's not going to destroy itself, making it look as if it's like just going through. Now I reworked this logic. I made it so that the laser checks the distance. Like, first of all, it checks if there's been any hit made at all. If there has been a hit made from like within the gun context, then it calculates the distance between the player and the target that was hit. Then it will initialize the projectile as usual, but as it's going forward, every frame it checks, okay, has this projectile, have I reached this distance? Like, for example, we assume that the difference, that the distance between the player and the object that we shot at is like 5 meters. Then the projectile, as it's flying through the air, would constantly check if the distance it has traveled is equal or larger than 5 meters. If so, it destroys itself, meaning there's no collision logic at all. It's just completely time and distance based, which makes it so that, as you can see right now, it's still a little bit there, but not as noticeable as before. See this? You see this? Before this change, the bullet would just go behind the barrel. Now it stops. Of course, if you're really close up to the barrel, it will still look like it's going through it, but that's just a lighting issue. That's nothing really, it's nothing with a really big deal to it. It's just a visual bug. And then I did some changes to the swarm. Let's increase this by like make 20 swarms. Oh, nah, let's start with 15 first. We spawn the 15 swarms. And before that, you might have remembered that the swarms, as they spawned into the world, would just roll around the floor, which I fixed. Now they're immediately floating as a group, which is so much better because it was a pain to test it. Because every time I wanted to test it, at least one or two of the balls would roll off the map and then everything would be broken. So let's walk up to the swarm. Let's trigger it. Okay, you can see we triggered the swarm. Now it is going to follow me. And once I am in a certain range of a bee, like a single swarm entity, they will start shooting at me. This sounds ridiculous. And that's it. So now they can shoot with a really hilarious sounding projectile laser type shit. And you got the robot walking around in circles. Next thing I want to add is walking animations to the robot. I want to give him like a character that makes him look nice and more like a real game object rather than this abomination right here. Also, as you can see right now, the bees are just literally a light bulb with a circle attached to it. I need a model for this. I'm looking for like drone models maybe, or like, I don't know, cool balls like spheres that have like holes in them or like cool materials, cool textures. I want to go a little bit for a more sci-fi look, if that makes sense. But yeah, now you can have multiple bots walking around in circles until they see you. They're going to charge. I fixed the lightning issue. I fixed the issue that bullets could go through objects. I made it so that... what else have I changed? I made it so that the bees work now. I added a whole battery system. Well, and I fixed various other issues. That's pretty much it for today's devlog.